Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this meeting of Cheltenham Borough Council's Cabinet. My name is Rowena Hay. I'm leader of the council. I should say Councillor Rowena Hay, shouldn't I, in this instance? So we don't have any members of the public in attendance, but welcome to those watching the live stream of the meeting on the council's YouTube channel. So we don't have any public here present tonight, but we do have CCTV running, and audio recordings are also in operation in the foyers in the public gallery, with recordings that will be held for 5 months. We don't have any fire alarms expected or fire alarm tests, so if the alarm does sound, you should immediately make your way to the nearest exit. I do have tonight one set of apologies from Councillor Clucas. Can I ask if there are any members that have any interests to declare for any of the agenda items tonight? No. So obviously we met on the 24th of September, and the minutes from that meeting will be considered at our next Cabinet meeting in November. We don't have any member questions or public questions, and we have no petitions for tonight. We also so that takes us on to the next section, and we have no matters that have been referred to Cabinet by Council, Overview and Scrutiny, or of any other committees on this occasion. And that leads us into section 5, which is reports from Cabinet members. And our first report tonight is the approval of the budget strategy process and timetable. Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. So this report kicks off the very exciting 2024-2025 budget setting process. It will not escape anybody's notice that there is a sizable overspend for us to manage. This is, unfortunately, one of the toughest budget years for this council in political memory. Pressures on local government are immense. More and more people need services, and the cost of delivering those services goes up day in, day out. There is no cavalry coming. It is fair to say, from everything we have heard from central government, they will not be footing the bill for the services that residents need and deserve. Our government has failed to step up, but we will. I'm working with colleagues and with our excellent finance team to make the tough but necessary decisions to close that financial gap. There's no way out but through, but we will be able to make decisions today that safeguard our financial future tomorrow. We're going to have a resilient budget that can face up to the challenges this council and this country face moving forward. But the money we spend is ultimately ours. It's not just mine. It's your money as residents of Cheltenham. So I invite you with great enthusiasm to feed into the budget process. There will be tough choices. There will be hard compromises. I value your feedback now more than ever. Consultation opens in mid-December, running through to mid-January, so it's perfect for filling your time between rom-com reruns over the festive season. You don't need to be an accountant or a finance expert. The report will be fairly accessible, explaining how we spend our money, what our priorities are. If you think you've got better ideas, especially facing some of the tough financial choices that we do have to make, I'm very open to listening. Then in the new year, that will be taken through to our scrutiny committees, who will go through it with a fine-tooth comb, ask me some very tough questions. Before, in February, it will come before council, and councillors from across Cheltenham, representing every corner of our town, will make the hard judgment of whether this budget is the one to pass. So I thank everybody for the time and effort that many of you in this room and this council will be putting in to scrutinise this budget, and I hope that we'll be able to pass a nice, balanced, robust budget in the new year.
Thank you, Councillor Lewis. You made a very we do this every year. You made that sound actually very exciting for a process. Is there any member that would like to make a comment on this? No? It is an important part of the process, and I would reiterate that, it is important that everybody who can and wants to contributes to this what will be the consultation on our budget. We've been very focused on our budget. Our priorities are very clear, and they've been consistent as well over the last few years, is making a commitment to specific things that are our priorities. But so thank you, Councillor Lewis. Can I see a show of hands to approve that? Thank you very much. That's unanimous. That then leads us on to the second report for tonight, which is the report of Councillor Telford, and it's the review of floral displays in the town centre.
Thank you, Leader. Colleagues, I bring this report to you tonight to help us improve biodiversity, reduce our carbon emissions, and ensure efficient use of taxpayer money, simply by making some changes to our plantings in the town centre. Firstly, this report asks us to approve a switch from annual flowers to perennial plants for lawn gardens outside the municipal offices. We have already switched almost all of our other parks and green spaces across the town to perennial plants already, which are far more beneficial to pollinating insects and contribute to the recovery of nature. They also utilise significantly less water and energy in their production and maintenance. We don't have to replace them multiple times a year. Once they're in, they're in. And I think it's safe to say that this has been a big success elsewhere in the town, contributing to our 7 Green Flag awarded parks this year. Sanford Park, for example, first received their award in 2023 after having switched to perennial plants. And I'm sure that everyone who has visited there can attest to how beautiful these plantings are. I think you only have to look to Oxford Gardens and Priory Gardens just off London Road in my own ward to see how effective perennial plants could be in a similar lawn garden design. The council and Ubico teams also have plenty of experience now to ensure that these plantings are well balanced and colourful while benefiting nature recovery. And while this might be a big change from what people may be used to, I'm personally very excited to see perennial plants in the lawn gardens, seeing something much more natural but well maintained in our town centre to help reinforce our town within a park credentials and help people connect with nature. Notably, though, for those who really love the traditional annual flowers style of planting, this report proposes that Imperial Gardens would continue to have these annual flowers and be a sort of showcase park for this classic look. This is also helpful. Obviously, we have things like the Science Festival there, so we have to move the flowers out of the way, which we wouldn't be able to do if we had perennial plants there. The report also includes a proposal for the reduction in hanging baskets, consolidating and condensing these to the town centre for a maximum visual impact while minimising the environmental impact of water use of these. Where possible, we'll be using flowers in these that are more beneficial to insects than what is currently used as well, creating a sort of bridge between existing perennial planting schemes like Clarence Fountain, Cambray Place and John Lewis, trying to connect all of these together. And the final part of the report is about the removal of the window boxes on the municipal offices and the town hall. Personally, I think they are both beautiful buildings anyway, architecturally, and they should be allowed to speak for themselves. But fundamentally, both the hanging baskets and the window boxes use a considerable amount of water each year, literally thousands of pounds worth of water just to maintain those, which, alongside all of the maintenance and all the carbon emissions and impact of growing and transporting the plants in the first place, I'm sure we can all agree isn't the right thing to continue. And I really recommend any members of the public that are interested in all of these environmental impacts and changes, have a look in the report, because it is actually very informative and eye-opening, to be honest. With all of these monies, we will, of course, save money and make substantial efficiencies, which I'm sure most of the public would appreciate the council doing. But primarily, these changes will benefit our nature recovery and help our work to combat the climate emergency. So, Cabinet, I commend this report to you and ask you to support it. Thank you.
Councillor Doby.
As the Cabinet member responsible for getting us towards net zero, of course I applaud this move today. The energy costs associated with producing plants in heated greenhouses for seasonal bedding and hanging baskets and window boxes around Cheltenham are significant. And there are, of course, also transport-related costs and carbon emissions, more particularly, linked to moving plants between seed houses, plant nurseries and planting locations. So the consequent reduction in CO2 emissions associated with today's decision will be calculated and will be factored into our journeys towards net zero, and I applaud this decision.
Councillor Horwood.
Yes, I'd like to strongly support this report. I think the approach is environmentally friendly, as Councillor Telford has explained, and I hope it will really demonstrate on the Long Garden above all, which is a showpiece for Cheltenham, that the sustainable can also be really beautiful. And I really look forward to seeing that succeed. Bearing in mind also that there will still be some planting in the traditional form in Imperial Gardens, where, of course, the interruption of planting by the festivals and other events means that you can't really have perennial planting in the same way. But so that will still be a showcase for our most exotic gardening. But I think the overall trend towards much more sustainable planting is a really, really positive thing. And I hope it will demonstrate that that can be beautiful as well.
Councillor Atherstone.
Thank you, Leader. Yeah, I would just like to say that I'm extremely supportive of this new way of working. Also, Councillor Telford, you mentioned that it was eye-opening. I found the report really, really interesting to read, and it even encouraged me to go online and look for different types of perennial plants for my own garden. They're absolutely beautiful. I love how the fact that the bees love the plants a lot more. And I was like flabbergasted with how much money is actually spent in terms of the watering and the transportation, and where we've got to really sort of tighten our finances. I think this is a really smart step forward. So huge thanks to the officers as well. It's great.
Councillor Jeffries.
Thank you, Leader. I too found the report very interesting, and for the comments that have been mentioned by colleagues, I'm going to be supportive. But there will be people in our town that don't read the report. And I know you've mentioned there's been some of our parks already that have been sort of transitioned from bedding plants to perennial plants. I suppose it's just a question of us being able to carry on that method of doing that, but also making sure that people can see the vibrancy of the perennial plants. Because what you do see with bedding plants clearly is that colour. And also what you do see with perennial plants is that colour. So I suppose it's people being able to not notice the fact that actually we still got colour. One's perennial and much better for the environment and much better for the, them as the taxpayers. So yeah, I applaud the work of UCO and the report. And let's hope that that colour transition doesn't change.
Any other member before I go back to Councillor Telford? Councillor Telford.
Thank you. Yeah, just on the colour, actually, I think it's one of the really quite nice things about perennial plants is we can plant them, and the teams are quite experienced at this now. The way they're designed and planted, you get different colours popping up at different times of year. And I think that allows residents to see all of this colourful thing and all of this kind of visual pop, as it were, while also appreciating the nature of it and getting to enjoy that and see how that develops over the year, rather than just seeing the same plants all the time. You're watching them change and blossom throughout the year, which I think is even more exciting. So I appreciate that. And with all the comments about the environment and how it is quite eye-opening for your own life and your own plantings. And if people are, at home and they've got their own hanging baskets, look at what plants you can put in there that might use less water and might be more beneficial to bees. Look at what plants you've got in your gardens, perennial plants instead. And we can, as a town, do even more to connect all our parks to all our homes and gardens and everything to make our place an insect and nature recovery town and the town with a park that it is. Thank you.
Can I see a show of hands to approve that report, please? It's unanimous. Thank you very much. So that leads us on now. That is the end of the reports tonight. There is, obviously, the next section is briefing session from members. So if I can go to Councillor Collins.
Yeah, thank you, Leader. I've just got two very quick ones. Myself, along with probably just about every senior member of the team in planning, have been working on a new planning enforcement policy. Now, I say new, we have to be, well, fair, realistic and make sure that it's also fit for purpose. So that'll be something that I'll probably discuss in a bit more detail in a future meeting, but I just wanted to make you aware of that. The other thing that actually mostly the same people have been working on is a heritage strategy for the town as well, because we do have, I think it's something in the region of about 2,600 Grade 2 listed buildings and a couple of Grade 1 listed buildings in the town, which we are the custodians, I think is the term of, and we have to make sure that we get that right as well. So hold your breath, look forward to it. It will be coming soon. Okay. Thank you.
Councillor Atherstone?
No comments or updates from me today. Thank you, Leader.
Councillor Lewis?
No updates from me, thanks, boss. We are working tirelessly on the budget, so I'm very excited to bring that to you at a later date.
Councillor Telford?
No substantial things, but one small thing. I did meet a member of our Yubico team recently who has worked for Yubico and the council before that for the past 50 years, which I think is something that should be celebrated, and their commitment to our town and our grounds maintenance and our parks and things. So I think that's a really great achievement. Thank you.
Councillor Doby?
Not at this time, Leader.
Councillor Jeffreys?
Nothing at this time, Leader. Thank you.
Councillor Horwood?
Thank you, Leader. Yes, I do have a few. First of all, obviously, we're all aware that the wonderful Cheltenham Literature Festival is underway, and I think we need to congratulate the Literature Festival on its 75th birthday. It's a fantastic heritage that we enjoy in this town. And this year's festival, I'm told by Cheltenham Festivals, has sold already 90,000 tickets for over 500 events. And that is getting well on the way to being back to pre-COVID levels. I think all these live events are still recovering on that post-COVID curve, but the Literature Festival is well on its way. And amongst that, they are hosting a record 12,000 school children, which is an astonishing statistic over the days of the festival. It's also in its second year of being fossil-free, and it's also the most accessible festival ever, with real efforts being made to make it accessible to wheelchair users, but also providing for the first time amazing AI-driven captioning of live events, which I saw in action yesterday and which is quite amazing. Not 100% accurate, but pretty impressive, actually. On the visual arts and heritage front, I was a guest of the Cheltenham Trust at the Wilson last week, where I was at the opening of two exciting new exhibitions, Natural Progression in partnership with the university, and Into Abstraction in partnership with Hepworth Wakefield and the Pangolin Gallery. And of course, this town has a proud tradition with Barbara Hepworth providing the amazing bronzes near the Wilson. But where I was also able to announce £250,000 worth of funding from the National Heritage Lottery Fund, Museum Development Southwest, and Friends of the Wilson to launch the Big Museum Project, which is the major engagement project that the Wilson team are launching, which will help us and help them to shape the future of the museum and how they take our amazing and enormous collection and communicate it and present it in the best possible way and shape it in a way that responds to what local people want and what local people are interested in, but also what they would be fascinated to find out about the history of our town. Last Friday, on a different front, I saw the first students starting at the Gloucestershire College Sustainable Construction Training Centre. And this is somewhere where they were enormously grateful to this council and particularly praised Tracy Birkinshaw and her team for helping them to secure 4 out of the 5 million required for that centre to be built. And it has been built, as any good construction project should have been, on budget and faster than on schedule. And that it was tackling a number of issues. We know that we want development to benefit local people. We know that we want development to be sustainable and zero carbon. And we know we want it to plug skills gaps. We want development training to plug skills gaps that exist. And this Sustainable Construction Training Centre will now host 250 local learners a year and tackle all those issues. It will tackle skills gaps identified with local business, so a really good partnership there. It will offer opportunities for young people in the least affluent part of Cheltenham, but also further afield. And it will not only give them the skills to do everything from installing solar panels to traditional plumbing to air source heat pumps to all the kind of new technologies that we are insisting on for the new developments west of Cheltenham, but it will also be zero carbon itself. Another great example of us moving towards net zero as a whole town. And then finally, I'd like to say that I'm indebted to Siobhan Farmer and the public health team at Gloucestershire County Council for providing us with an amazing profile of Cheltenham's health. And this is something we asked for to inform this council's next round of health and wellbeing grants, which are going to be £170,000 worth of grants for community organisations later this year, and make sure that those are really informed by proper health data and analysis by the public health team. And the data is really interesting, and I will endeavour to place this in the public domain and share it with all councillors, certainly. And it reveals, as we might have known within this council, and certainly within the Liberal Democrats, that we have, on average, a very affluent town in many respects, but one that hides enormous inequalities and includes some real, not only areas of deprivation, but poorer people who suffer from inequality in the more affluent areas. And it puts them at risk of some of those diseases and illnesses of poverty and of deprivation that are quite well known. But there were some other shocking statistics in the report. The most shocking of all, which I think will inform this grants programme going forward, was about children's mental health. The report showed that over 20% of pupils report low mental well-being, 22% have received mental health support, and over 20%, 1 in 5, have self-harmed or taken an overdose, according to the stats. I find that truly shocking, and that is a problem on an epidemic scale, in my view, and I hope that our grants programme later this year will specifically seek to address that. So we have much to celebrate in this town on arts, culture, economy, training and other areas, but we still also have some real challenges, and I'm very glad that this council is also addressing those challenges. Thank you, Leader.
Thank you, Councillor Horwood. I think it's worth just updating very quickly is that obviously everybody knows that we've gone live with the sale of this building. And just for now, what I would say, I mean, I've done a couple of interviews with regards to that. There are lots of interested, I mean, above average interested parties, which is very encouraging. We're on the start of a journey, which is exciting. There'll be sadness for some people to see this iconic building go, but also there will be, you know, it's better for our environment, better for our economy if this building becomes something that is used properly and full and live and vibrant again. So we're on a journey. Watch this space, I guess. That's the end of our member briefings. And so we next move on to decisions of cabinet members. First one is award a contract for timber doors from Councillor Lewis.
Thank you, Leader. So this contract will be delivering some much needed leftover fire doors. So over the past 2 years, we have invested significantly across CBH's portfolio to ensure that residents have the fire doors that they need. But there are a limited and specific number of properties that are particularly sort of doors aren't standard sizes, or it's a heritage building. So we need to deliver more tailor-built fire doors. This contract will allow us to meet those needs and to bring everybody, hopefully, up to spec. Thanks.
And second decision is a response to National Planning Policy Framework. Councillor Collins.
Yes, thank you, Leader. I've got two. Shall I do them one after? Because they're very similar. They're responses to basically the new government who wanted to update. The first one being the National Planning Policy Framework. So We have responded. We've made sure that all our documentation, our policies will be compliant. We've asked a few questions, but again, quite a lot of work has gone into this. The other one is slightly different, a response to local government guide consultation. This is a draft, this one. And what we've done is we've worked with our JSP, our Joint Strategic Partnership partners, and the County Council in providing a collective response. So basically everyone knows what they should or should not be doing, including those national developers, so those builders as well as the local planning authorities, which I think is really important because we need to have a clear hymn sheet to be singing from to make sure that we comply with what is required in there. So I welcome this one. As I say, it is a draft, so I'm sure it'll come back to us and we'll have to do a final version. But at the moment, that's where we are. Thank you.
The final decision was a decision I took with regards to Gloucestershire Airport. And we, as a shareholder, we needed to appoint jointly with Gloucester 2 new members of the board. Given where we're at with the airport, it was felt better that actually what we did is we agreed to appoint two representatives from each of the councils. So Councillor Collins will be the new board member, and obviously Gloucester City have appointed as well. That's the end of the decisions. There are no other items that I've been told about that require a decision. So that is 6:30 with the meeting closed.